You are now listening to PODCORN, episode 19, for August 7th, 2013.
Cigarettes on cigarettes, my mama think I stink. I got burn holes in my hoodies, all my homies think it stink. I miss my cocoa butter kisses. I miss my cocoa butter kisses. Cigarettes on cigarettes, my mama think I stink.
Hello, it's Amyreeder and Bmontclare. We're bringing you a PODCORN podcast.
That's right, from a remote location.
Yeah, the super secret attic of the Jefferson Library.
Yeah, Jefferson Market Library on 6th Avenue in Greenwich Village.
Yeah. It's
by special arrangement of the head librarian.
It's a library that used to be a church, but kind of looks like a castle. And like the very bottom floor, like the basement, looks like a dungeon where people were tortured. That's how I like to think of it. But then there's just random library floor and library equipment. But then they've got all these arches, you know. It's like
obviously it's a Gothic revival, but you want to go full on Gothic. Yeah. People being tortured in the basement. Secret covens in the attic.
Yeah, like the stairs make you feel like you're going through like a castle tour, and they're telling you where people went to the bathroom and stuff.
Right.
So
it's pretty cool up here. Good place to make plans.
Yeah, we might make more use of it in the future.
Yeah, isn't it awesome? Mm-hmm. Too bad you can't see it.
Yeah, sorry guys.
We'll take a picture.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, lots of stuff going on, right? We just got back from Boston Comi-Con.
Yeah, a lot of fun up in Boston.
Yeah.
Big show, good turnout.
Yeah.
A lot of great fans. A couple of listeners of PODCORN came up to us.
Talked to us about it, which was pretty sweet.
And most relevant of all to PODCORN is meeting Chris Robinson.
That's
who
right.
we met once before in the flesh.
Yeah, no, but it was really cool to get to know him and stuff. I know that you've had probably more contact with him than I have.
Yeah, we talked about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so it's fun to hang out with him and kind of get to know like what he's all about and stuff.
Who else did you hang out with?
Let's see. I remember Coley Hamner being there, and Chrissy Zulu and Bill Willingham. BrigidAlverson moderated our panel.
That's right.
I did a Women in Comics panel, so that was really cool.
With Colleen Duran and Sarah Richard.
Yeah, it was super. I don't know. I was really interested when I was listening. I felt like it was a really good panel, and it was all about us being artists rather than us being women, which was kind of like a nice change of pace. And I met Sue from DC Women Kickin' Ass, who interviewed me on her Three Chicks podcast.
Yeah.
So,
and to the left and right of you was Erica Henderson, who did recently did a Kickstarter for Cthulhu based. I think it was illustrations, right? It was or was it a comic?
Yeah, it's illustrations.
And on the other side,
Ming Doyle, who is currently of Mara fame. With,
last issue's coming up.
Brian Wood, yeah. So that was really cool. She dressed up as Jubilee, and it was like really awesome looking.
Yeah, she had full on cosplay.
Yeah.
On Saturday, right? So.
Yeah, she's like kind of a serious nerd. She dresses up like as a Star Trek character a lot too. Right. So.
Said hi to Jim Calafori.
Yes.
Another Kickstarter success. Mm-hmm. Who did Leaving Megalopolis with Gail Simone. Mm-hmm. Coming out soon. And talked to Brian Azzarello a bit at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All good stuff.
Yeah.
Good show.
Yeah, I'm really glad that the turnout was so good. I heard that it was just kind of like blown out of the water from last year, which is really nice to hear after the fact that, they had to reschedule because they had originally scheduled it the weekend that they were trying to find the perpetrators that had, bombed during the marathon.
Yeah, right. So it was rescheduled from April, and it's going to be again in April. And it was a new venue, beautiful.
Along
and connected to the main hotel if you're a guest, which was a really nice hotel. Mm-hmm. So it was. It's really, it's a lot. It's a big feature for that show.
Yeah.
Good dealer's room too, if I do say so myself.
Oh yeah, what did you like there?
I dropped about $200 worth of
That's
stuff.
right. You spent a lot of money.
And that's hard for me to do because I don't spend more than like $1 on comics or like trades that are. Like $5 or $10 are hardcovers.
Well, I want to say that I want to say that like usually those dealers' rooms, it depends on what your tastes are, right? In your taste, you really like finding the gold from the past. Am I right?
Well, I mean, it depends what you mean by gold. If by gold you mean a nice run of Conan the Barbarian for $1 each, then yeah, I picked up probably almost 100 issues of that because Dark Horse reprints it and it's recolored, and I hate the recoloring. It doesn't fit. It's like this. It's because it's very modern and they wanted to update it, but it does. Except this stuff was originally printed for newsprint and kind of designed in a certain way, and to have these super rendered and gradiated colors, shifts, and everything else, it doesn't work. Not that the old one's flat. It was just basically the old color process. I don't like it at all, so it doesn't.
And it's
work.
on the nice newsprint. And
yeah,
stuff like
and there's like a lot of issues, and like I said, for anyone who cares at home, from about issue 70 to about 150 or 175 or so. I said, well, how can I say no? And I will actually probably replace my Dark Horse reprints now with having the originals. And a bunch of DC Archives and Marvel Masterworks have been discontinued, right? So they've been liquidated. So you can get them cheap at a lot of places online on shows and whatnot, but they had them for $10 each. Nice archives. So speaking of Chris Robinson, I picked up a lot of Gene Colan Daredevil stuff, and had a little debate with Chris Robinson whether Gene Colan is, all that or not quite. So.
Oh, that's right, because you were showing me the images and stuff and how he uses such diverse poses, which was pretty cool.
Yeah. A lot of people like Gene Colan for his Tomb of Dracula stuff, but I love his storytelling in Howard the Duck. But to me, the 100 issues he did of Daredevil are amazing. Just to see the anatomy and figure work and posing and everything else. So you flip through it. Like I said, it's all action, cool. So it's good. Like every panel was putting him in a super dynamic, but still feasible. It's not like Kirby.
Yeah.
Like Kirby's cool. I'm not taking anything away. He'll say, it's impressionistic, right? It's the effect. So it doesn't matter if that's not how somebody throws a punch. It looks like how he's throwing a punch. But Colan was like so, like I said, a master of the human figure,
I wouldn't call him a master.
Well, I would.
I thought that there were things that were incorrect about it. It was just cool that he kept trying new stuff.
Well,
he also didn't really understand like the cause and effect of action, because he was like probably thinking of posing people in static positions.
Well, says you.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, and we met Chris Ryle, who's in charge of IDW.
Had a long conversation about ROM Space Night with Chris Ryle.
Nice. Is that robot guy?
He's that robot guy, yeah.
Who's not really a robot?
Well, it's, I don't want to ruin it for people if anyone ever reads the 75 issues of ROM. But, no, he's a big ROM fan, and ROM was great. But, it was nice to meet Chris Ryle because he backed both of our Kickstarters.
Yeah, he's been very supportive of us.
Yeah.
It's pretty sweet. No, he seemed like a really good guy, so.
Yeah, and they had the Locke Key crew there.
Yeah,
Joe Hill
were
and Gabriel Rodriguez.
Getting a huge line going there.
Locke and Key's a great book, and in a lot of ways, Rocket Girl, when we're thinking of, it's an ongoing series, and it'll be monthly, but in arcs, right? So a lot of that, you look at, Locke and Key can do it.
Anyway, so...
What'd you buy at...
I got some 3D printed earrings and bobby pins.
What does that mean?
Well, you know what a 3D printer is. Everybody knows what that is.
I really don't. I've seen the earrings. They look like plastic.
It's just basically you can design something on a computer, and then they call it a printer. I don't even know why they call it a printer. I wish they'd come up with a new name, but basically they recreate it in a 3D realm using plastic. You can get different colors of plastic.
Like they put a block of plastic in and it basically carves it out, or?
No, it's like, it's more... I guess this is where the printing comes in. It's more that there's like this little tiny like melted plastic tip that kind of like starts painting something along until it starts growing. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, kind of.
So my earrings were Tetris pieces.
So it's a liquid that literally...
Yeah, it's like a liquid.
Congeals, that wouldn't be there. Hardens.
Yeah, because the bobby pins actually had like a lot of the little stretchy pieces, like it looked like stretched cheese or something.
Sounds like a printer to me.
Yeah, I guess it is. I don't know. I think you should come up with a cooler name.
And what else?
I
didn't know what these were.
Yeah, I'm so ashamed I didn't buy any comic books. I got a Thwomp, and that would be Mario Brothers related.
Yeah, like a throw pillow.
Yeah, it's for my brother, so nobody tell my brother. I'm trying to get.
Does he listen to our podcast?
No. I'm trying to get Christmas presents early this year.
Oh, well, we shouldn't have said anything now. The Cats.
We'll never hear. Nobody listens. No, none of my family listens to this, I don't think.
We also made a pit stop at the Pez Visitor Center.
Oh, that's right. On the way there, because we drove there. And
it was horrible traffic.
Yeah, it was. So we just needed a rest.
And in the middle of Connecticut, Orange, Connecticut, I guess that's where all the Pez in all the world comes from.
Yeah. So and Brandon was like, should we go? I don't know. Maybe we should just keep... Maybe the traffic will get better if we just keep going. And I was like, Brandon... You're either a loser or you're a winner. Which one do you want to be?
Yeah, and I didn't know what the right course of action you were suggesting by that. Like, was it the winner to keep on going, or was the winner to stop?
The winner was not to follow something that doesn't love you back.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I didn't understand at the time.
Yeah.
But we stopped anyway.
No, we stopped because we're winners.
That's right.
And we only love what loves us back.
And yeah, so it was cool because you can kind of peek into. It has like a museum, and it was pretty cool because it was like, you could see all the different. It's probably not like complete, but you see all different kinds of Pez.
Yeah, lots of old
dispensers,
retro Pez's and display boxes.
Yeah, it's organized.
It was well composed. It
looks
very IKEA.
Curated. Yeah, exactly. And like they've done Batman Pez for 40 years at least, right? And then you could see all through the years.
Yeah, there's a lot of comic book related things.
Switched, yeah.
A lot of Popeye as well.
And through the museum, you could look into the factory.
Yes.
Right, but it was, it wasn't, they weren't like cranking a ton out, but it was pretty cool to see like
they were closing shop
buckets.
though, so who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Highly recommended.
Well, Brandon freaked out. I mean, I was kind of like, this is cool, and I'm just happy Brandon's not stressed because he didn't like the traffic, But I'm not a Pez person, so I bought my first Pez dispenser.
But Pez is like, even if you're not a Pez person, like you can say I'm not a candy person, and we went to the Starburst factory, and I guess it was okay. Mm-hmm. But Pez is like, it's its own thing, You have to respect.
You know what it is?
The cultural or pop cultural phenomenon of Pez over the years.
Yeah. I guess
you say but you were just...
No,
it was a completely dismissive
I'm sorry. Look, I had a point in my head, and I wasn't listening. That's the real truth.
I'm trying to take you off your game.
Look, you always take me off my game. But, like... all those like Sesame Street videos where they show the making of crayons and stuff like that, and it's like totally enthralling to watch all these machines make crayons. I was kind of hoping that that's what would happen when we went in there.
Well, like you said, they were winding down. They weren't. I bet if you like timed it, you could go probably on a tour of the. I bet if you sweet talked them and said, "Hey, I'm from out of town," and you called in advance, can I get a tour of the factory floor? I bet you could, and I bet you'd have to put on a helmet.
Yeah.
And a lab coat type, like a protective coat.
Yeah, it'd be cool to like watch the mixture, and then it goes down a funnel, and then everything gets wrapped and goes down the display. Good
enough as is.
Belt.
Maybe even better if you put some thought behind it.
Yeah. I don't know. So anyway, really good trip. And today mostly what we wanted to talk about. There's been a lot of debate lately online, right?
Yeah. Well, exactly. And BrigidAlverson, who moderated your panel,
yes,
kind of mentioned it.
In Robot 6.
Well, she did a
panel as well.
She did a feature in Robot 6. I had missed it, and you had missed it because we were at the show, right, traveling. Mm-hmm. But and she didn't break the story, but Jeremy Holt, a writer, an indie writer, made a statement, and he's since kind of clarified it. In all fairness, where it's like in his experience working with as a self-publisher, working with an artist, in his experience, if he were paying the artist up front, they didn't seem to be as into it. But if it was somebody who wasn't getting paid, it worked out better. Yeah. And from that statement, which is a provocative statement, if nothing else. Yeah. Some debate going on. The big, Paul Aller did something big. Heidi McDonald on the beat, but it was also the beat staff, so I don't know who else contributed to it. Yeah. BrigidAlverson. Mm-hmm. Justin Jordan chiming in. Yeah. A few places.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. I think it originally stemmed from the whole previous thing that we actually also podcasted about the artist versus writer, and
that's right. Last week we talked about crediting artists.
Yeah. So
and I do think it came out of that discussion.
Yeah, because it is true that as far as when you're just starting out, writers have it really bad. You know what I mean? It's so hard to get in. It's so hard to get to the point where you do have enough books that you're working on where you can make it a full-time job. And you have to really invest in a lot. And it's very hard for people to evaluate writing versus art So you're kind of, it is true that you're kind of at the mercy of artists, you know.
I don't know that I agree. I know what you're saying, though.
Well, say what you got to say.
Well, I think it's definitely hard to do everything. It's maybe the bar is lower if you're a writer, and I don't know if everybody would agree with that, you know. But it depends on what you mean. It depends on what you're talking about, working for your first gig at Marvel or DC or putting something together. Nobody needs permission, right? A writer can write non-comic stuff, or he can draw his own stuff if he has any ability. Yeah. And certainly an artist can write their own comics or just do illustration work and put it up on DeviantArt. So the point of access isn't harder. It is maybe harder to make the leap from almost the final step from to use baseball terminology, from AAA to the big leagues is probably harder for a writer than an artist. That I'd agree with. Yeah. But as far as like getting maybe some stuff published or recognized or anything else, I don't know that it's much harder. Maybe. You know what I mean? Yeah. It is easier to if you're very good, it's easier to demonstrate that as an artist. Yeah. Than it is as a writer. Yeah. And maybe that's what it should all be about, whether you're really good or not. Yeah.
But anyway, so Jeremy Holt, which I keep wanting to say Steve Holt, which you don't really understand because you don't watch Arrested Development, but everybody else did. He was saying that that people whom he pays up front seem to be less into the books than the people who he doesn't pay up front but then gives 50%.
You're right, and the implication, intended by Holt or not, but that other people picked up and ran with, is what that means. And I kind of approached it completely differently, where it's to me it's a question of semantics, but it's also, in my mind, wrong-headedness, because the whole debate became, when is it appropriate for a writer to pay an artist? And if you're talking about even any kind of professional aspiration, the answer is never. And I don't mean that artists shouldn't be paid at all. So hear me out, right? It's the publisher pays the artist, and if the writer is also the publisher, that's perfectly acceptable. It's happened before, many times with great success. But you have to separate out your role as publisher or financier. You know what I mean? Or whatever you want to call it, from the role as the writer. Yeah. Because then I think that's what sends people down this slippery slope. Well, I created it and I paid you, and it's like wear two different hats. So maybe we should talk about our division. Okay. Yeah.
So our whole situation is that we're publishing Rocket Girl, right? Right. We've got to figure out a way
based on the model for Halloween Eve.
Oh, yes. We also did this on Halloween Eve. Right.
And it worked, so we're continuing it.
I feel like you should explain it better, but basically we both have a page rate, but mine is guaranteed.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And so that maybe the origin, we talked about this last week. Artists taking much more time, and it's a full-time job. You really can't do Rocket Girl justice if the Spider-Man editor calls you up tomorrow and offers you some Spider-Man work. Yeah. And do both, right? I could, if they offered me writing Spider-Man, do it tomorrow and still do Rocket Girl justice, right? We talked about that last week, and if anyone missed that, they can go back. But, so the idea is that your stuff, needs to be guaranteed out of necessity. You left DC, we did Rocket Girl together, so we established... Halloween Eve, I'm sorry. And what we did was, Amy needs to get paid, and I'm in a position financially where I can pay it, right? Because I can borrow the money if I need to. I have some saved up. It's, to me, an investment. And so we took 2/3 of your rate at DC. And I said, I'll make sure that you get that on Halloween Eve. And then let's call it Rocket Girl because we've extended it, right? So I will make sure, Amy, on the first 5 issues, because we're going to at least do that, and if there's any success, then it should be... Under our plan, ongoing, self-sustained, right? Yeah. So that'll get us to the Kickstarter. The Kickstarter will get us to issue 1. The proceeds of issue 1 get you to issue 2. The trade paperback stuff comes in, so on and so forth, right? But it did require some money up front, and I put that in, right? For a lack of a, to be blunt, I suppose.
Yeah.
Right?
And to be fair, it's not like that you're rolling in it, right? You just figure out ways to finance it.
Yeah, exactly. It's not coming out of, I didn't have cash sitting around to just pay. I had to make it work, right? Which is, something I've done before with my, background as owning a comic shop and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But 2/3, I think, is very attractive to anybody. I think
it's a good deal.
Any artist, creator, writer, if they could get 2/3 of what they're making at DC and do creator-owned stuff, they would all leave their DC work tomorrow.
Yeah.
And get it. So that much is what I'm on the hook for, right? So if it sells 0, if we never sell an issue of, and if the Kickstarter failed and we never sold an issue, I would have to pay you for that. Although we would have canceled the project if some of those things happened. But
yeah,
for argument's sake, that's the theory behind it. And then there's also the expenses that go along with Kickstarter, which is also covered by the Kickstarter, fulfilling rewards and all the other stuff.
And then as well as promoting the book and going to shows.
If we go to conventions and promote stuff and everything else, and but also some of the income that comes from the shows, we'll throw that back into the pool, back into the pot, right?
Yeah.
And Image helps a bit with financing. They don't offer any advances for creators, which we should get back to, and you should definitely talk about the importance of advances and the reality of whether you work or don't, right? But Image takes a fee for their services, but they take it off the back end, and they also forward all the printing bill and take that off the back end. So basically, your returns for the issue, they will deduct their expenses out of. So that's a cost that we'll have to pay, but not till down the road.
Yeah.
So once all that's paid, then I pay myself a page rate, which was, for fairness, is 2/3 of my DC rate, right? Because that's how we factored yours. And that's good because your DC rate was negotiated over a number of years and reflects your popularity and your experience. And likewise mine does, or maybe that I haven't done as much work. So we took those rates as being, and said they're fair, so I'll take 2/3. And once that's done, the book is paid for itself, because I think, practically speaking, you need to really say, listen, the book pays for itself when it also covers creator costs.
Yeah.
So beyond that, we split 50-50 because we're co-creators.
Yeah. Supposedly, although, it's an ongoing book, so the idea is we might need to make expenses as we keep going along.
Well, exactly, right? Yeah, you might want to have you want to think of it as almost, exactly, a bank account. And you want some savings in the bank in case we need it for some reason.
Yeah.
But,
And we have managed to earn everything back that we
that's
spent
the thing. Rocket Girl is ongoing.
Halloween Eve.
Yeah, Rocket Girl, it's not earned it all back. Not nearly yet, right? But Halloween Eve just did officially at the Boston Comic-Con, which is another nice reason to have this conversation.
We were pretty close, right at, after the book had come out and we got our royalties back a few months later. But then, of course, then we sold books bit by bit at different conventions.
Sure. And like anything else, there's things you learn, so it'll be less next time, and you save some expenses. But it's been great. So we've both exceeded 2/3 of our rate.
Yeah.
On that project, and own it 100%, right?
Yeah.
And we're getting, by this time, next year, at some point we're going to make. Hey, it was actually better for us to do Halloween Eve than it would have been to do a Spider-Man story, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And it's thanks to the fans, obviously. But there is some talk about, well, what does an artist need, and not. So from your perspective, you're leaving DC.
Yeah.
You want to do a creator-owned thing. We know the end of the story is you need 2/3, but I'm not asking personally, but what's the mentality of what you need? Is it just because it's what you do? It's your job?
What do you mean? You're saying that, what I need beyond the page rate?
No, that you need a page rate, that you as an artist, as a professional.
Yeah. Well, there's no way I could do it otherwise. In order for me to make good work, I don't do stuff on the side. It's just not the way I work. That's the way, it's kind of funny that they're talking about, amount of dedication on something depending on, whether they get it on the back end or at the beginning. For me, I actually feel more motivated. I'm a motivated person, and the only way I can get the things done that I need to do is if I get paid for them. I can't just have something on the side I try and do. You know what I mean? I won't make it. I won't get anything done. So yeah, I'm a one project at a time kind of girl.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, it's about making it happen and just going back to, which is, you know, make it work, right? It's simple, but it's also overlooked a lot of ways, I think. You know, what Amy, you know, it's not I am paying Amy, even though I'm the backer. It's we came up with a plan. You know, and how is this book going to work? The only way we can make it work is this. Okay, well, that's what we need for production costs, and how can we get there? Well, maybe we can do this, maybe we can do that. I can contribute something, you do whatever, and you know, again, you make it work. But you know, you're not a publisher if you're not doing it for money. You know what I mean? Meaning, if a book can't financially support itself, you're not a publisher. You're not even a self-publisher. You're an amateur, and I don't mean that as fighting words or anything negative. But you know, a professional does it as their profession. Doesn't mean you're better. Doesn't mean that money is the most important thing in the world. But if this is going to be your career, if this is how you're going to provide, it needs to support itself. Now certainly at stages in your career, it can be for exposure. You always have a lot of thoughts on the value of exposure. So maybe you don't agree with what I'm saying. I don't know.
Well, no, I mean, like, I think when you're just starting out, I think it's okay to do some things for free. You know, if you think that it's going to help you for exposure, or just be a good learning experience, or get you, you know, so that you have relationships with people who are in the business and who want to see you succeed in the future. That's actually something that I think, like with art schools and stuff in general, they tend to not think that, they tend to try and encourage artists never to do anything for free. And I think that's kind of a bad way to look at it. And I really do think strongly that like, doing it for the love of it is super duper important, you know? But yeah, so I don't know. It's different for everybody is basically what I'm saying. Like,
no, I don't disagree. And again, that's just more semantics, whether you're an amateur or professional.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you're going to make it in the long game, your work has to support your life. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you can say, well, I'll sacrifice certain things in my life, or I won't, or whatever. I mean, it's 100% okay. But you know, it's even publishers out there there's a lot of big name publishers. It's not Marvel and DC. It's not Image, because Image is a kind of unique setup. But there are other big publishers out there that, you know, you say, oh, I can't believe they do. Where the deal is, we'll publish it for half the rights, and we won't pay you anything. You'll get a back end deal. Yeah. And to me, that's not publishing. It's like the book can't support itself. I mean, and, you know, unless you're in the game of waiting for a movie option to come along, or supporting, you know, an IP library as a publisher, so you can then flip that to investors or something else. It's not valid. I mean, you know, it's such a you're devaluing the book so much if, you know, you're keeping cover prices so low that they don't cover, you know, that they don't make enough money back, or if you're just, you know, waiting around and you know, that somehow ancillary money is the only way comics can survive. Yeah. I mean, it's certainly some publishers are wholly dependent on that, or partially dependent on that. A lot of big name publishers, you know, make you finance the book as a creator by putting you on 30-day terms. You've worked for 90-day terms before, you know what I mean? It's crazy. I mean, you know, it's you really do need to I think, because you can't survive otherwise. You know what I mean? It's not an issue whether you love it or you need the money or you do it anyway. The work will stop existing if the money isn't there to support it. You won't be able to create it anymore. You know what I mean? So you have to find the way that works to support the book. And that can conceivably be zero money, and it could conceivably be losing money, but, you know, not for long, I don't think.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, when you're just starting out, I guess you got to lose a little bit of money.
Well, absolutely, you know. Like I said, I don't disagree with it. But when you're just starting out, are you a professional or you're an amateur? You know, again, it's just semantics.
I don't know that he was talking about being a professional. I think he was just talking about doing projects. You know what I mean? And trying to get his comics out there. You know. And
for what end? I mean, to say, well, it's because I love making comics.
To get exposure so that he can get more money in the future and be able to work with artists who get paid, I guess. I don't know, though. I don't know if he's...
Yeah, it's a big guess.
I don't know whether his aspirations are mostly indie or if
I don't want to say him, because a lot of people share it, and I think he feels that... This is Jeremy Holt. that maybe has been misinterpreted. But it's certainly a sentiment that's out there. So people who say that, and again, I'm not trying to pull any punches, but people who say that tend to not have a plan. You know what I mean? It's like the plan is, oh, well, here's what I want to do, and I think we can not lose any money doing it or not lose too much.
Well, and also as far as what people have been saying, it seems that the argument at first was sort of like that, that it was one of two choices. Either you pay them up front or they get 50% of the share on the back end.
Yeah, which is totally bizarre to me, but you take it.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. So I guess if that really were something that you had to divide like that, I guess if you compared them, yes, probably the type of person who would care more about the back end would be invested to make sure that the back end got money, and they would want to be in on something with you because they're involved on the back end. And then if they got upfront money, it would feel, I guess, a little bit more like a job for some people. But obviously you can do both, because say that you earn a little bit of money, no matter what, you're going to get a little bit of money in return, whether you share some of that or not. And if you earn back a ton, then you should probably pay it where it's due.
I mean, I think so. I think it can be. It doesn't have to. I certainly don't. I do not think that it should ever be either or. But for a different reason, because I think ownership should be sacrosanct. You should, no matter what you do, you should own it. If you're an artist and a writer, it should always be an even split.
It's just a fact of the matter.
It's just it's like and the people
Well, and a lot of people have been saying that today.
Yes, and if you have equity as a writer and the artist who co-created with you doesn't, I think that's a disservice in every circumstance. Maybe with the exception, unless after the fact there's been a negotiation, right? But whether or not you choose upfront money is something that is a personal choice. But it should never be. There should never be not only participation, but an equal participation with the writer. If there's if there's a financial or a publisher involved who also gets a piece of it, they get their piece. Whatever's left over should be split between the writer and artist, because it's I call total BS on anyone who says, well, I created more than the other person. They just said what I said.
I mean,
anyone who can think that they can pull that off are, not just terrible collaborators. They don't understand comics, and they don't understand good comics.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, also, we should probably mention that tomorrow your last installment of Legends of the Dark Knight comes out.
August 9th, in case you might not be listening to PODCORN on its release date. But Legends of the Dark Knight 61 and 62. 62 comes out tomorrow. That's the DC Digital first Batman story. So I wrote it with Shane Davis.
Not creator-owned.
Not creator-owned. And we're going to talk about it next week. And we're going to spoil it. We said, we should talk about it earlier to promote it. But it was split into two. It was originally a one-shot. So I said, no, it changes so much, and it reflects. I didn't want to say, read the first one, and, so buy both. It's 99 cents.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about it next week. And we'll get behind the origin of it. Which
spoilery, so don't...
Yeah, but we're also talking about how it came together. I think that's actually very interesting. It's kind of a not unique, but it's one of the less, usual ways that one gets hired.
Yeah.
So we can talk about that. But we're really going to talk about the story and what we're going for, and and then if you buy it and read it first, you can be the judge of whether or not we were successful.
In fact, read it twice, because it's one of those things that'll make a lot more like it grows on you the more you read it, right?
You were going to say it makes a lot more sense if you read it twice.
Yeah, but that's not what I meant. I meant more like that there's going to be certain phrases and stuff that you're going to catch, and you'll be like, aha, what I mean?
we tried very hard, but sometimes you try very hard and you're trying too hard.
No, I think it's really good. So just understand there's a twist, and we're going to be talking about that tomorrow or next week. Oh, also though, we got to talk about that they have to follow us on Twitter, right?
Sure, because we can't live without it.
Yeah, no, we got to do that.
And start sharing PODCORN. We're getting listenership is up, so
Hey, did you notice that I mentioned it on that panel?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go.
I mean, everyone who's listening is great. People have been talking about it because
Yeah.
The listeners numbers are going up, which is
They're
great.
growing.
So you can follow me somewhere. Where do they find
At
me?
Bmontclare on Twitter.
Yeah.
At Amyreeder on Twitter. And Chris Robinson, who's been editing these, as well as putting some pretty hilarious notes on it and all sorts of things, he can be reached at Chris Robinson on Twitter.
And he's putting out short story anthologies, free digital. I don't even think it's download. You can see it at fanbros.com, Fearless Future.
Yup.
Those, he's got a couple out and a few more in the pipe. So read them. Great creators, too, doing different stuff.
Really good looking stuff.
Yep.
I mean, I'm an artist, so that's what I think of first.
Good reading stuff, because I'm a writer.
Yeah.
Until next time.
Bye.
I think we all addicted. Really though. I think we all addicted. Yeah. I think we all addicted. Cigarettes on cigarettes. My mama think I stink. I got burn holes in my memory.